Hi, and welcome to Westferry Times.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Good to be here.
Today, we're looking at something that's, well, it's a massive part of UK culture, the world of reality TV.
Mm-hmm.
Think Love Island, Big Brother, The X Factor, Made in Chelsea, those kinds of shows.
Everyone knows him.
Exactly. And what we want to understand in this deep dive is, what does all this really tell us about UK society? And, what impact is it actually having?
It's a huge question.
It is. And to help us unpack it all, we're joined by Dr. Nathan Miller. He's a media sociologist and the author of Screens of Influence, British Reality TV and Modern Identity. It's great to have you with us.
Thanks. Yeah, really pleased to be here and delve into this. It's always changing, isn't it?
It really is. So maybe let's start right at the beginning.
Right.
How did reality TV first sort of take hold here in the UK?
Well, the real explosion, I'd say, happened in the early 2000s. And Big Brother, that was the big bang, really. It was just so new, this idea of watching real people, constantly just living their lives on television.
It felt revolutionary at the time.
It did, but I mean, it didn't just appear out of nowhere. There were definitely roots back in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those documentary-style shows, things like Airport or Driving School,
Ah, okay. I remember those.
where you just saw ordinary people in their sort of everyday situations.
Right. But Big Brother felt different. I definitely remember that buzz. Everyone seemed to be talking about it.
Absolutely. And what it did was, well, it was really interesting from a sociological point of view. It fundamentally changed who could become a celebrity.
How so?
Well, suddenly you didn't necessarily need, a traditional talent or a huge media machine pushing you.
Right.
Ordinary people could become household names almost overnight. And that just had this massive ripple effect through British pop culture.
Okay. Which kind of leads us neatly into this idea of going from being, an everyday person to suddenly being an icon. How has reality TV really reshaped our whole concept of celebrity in the UK?
Yeah, it's democratized fame, I suppose you could say, in a way we hadn't really seen before.
Democratized.
Well, traditionally, fame was something you worked towards, didn't you, through a specific career path, acting, music, sport.
Sure.
Reality TV offered this shortcut, this idea of instant fame, and that's created a completely new type, a whole new class of celebrity.
Yeah, we're talking about people like Gemma Collins, maybe Joey Essex, Molly May Hague now.
Exactly.
These are massive names. They have huge influence, but it's not through those traditional roots.
Precisely. And social media, especially Instagram, has become like this extension of that reality TV fame.
Right. It feeds into it.
Totally.
Yeah.
For many contestants now, you get the sense that the focus is almost as much on building your brand, their follower count,
As it is on winning.
as it is on actually winning the show itself. Yeah. It's a different game now.
Thinking about that influence then, what kind of cultural impact is all this having? Especially maybe on younger people in the UK.
Oh, it's significant. Definitely. We're seeing a reshaping of aspirations for sure.
In what ways?
Well, things like body image, lifestyle expectations, it's all influenced by what they see. And it's even influencing the way people speak.
Really? How?
Yeah, there's been research noting how, say, teenagers in areas like Essex or maybe even Glasgow might adopt a kind of Love Island inflection in their speech.
Wow.
And there's a study, I think it was last year, 2023, indicating that a growing number of UK teenagers actually aspire to be influencers or reality stars more than, traditional professions.
That's wild and kind of troubling, maybe.
Well, it's a complex picture, isn't it? It's not all one thing.
Okay.
On one hand, you could argue reality TV offers a kind of visibility,
Yeah.
maybe even a degree of control over your own story, which can be appealing. But then on the other hand, it often pushes these highly curated, often quite unrealistic ideals, around beauty, wealth, what a good life looks like.
Which brings us to how these worlds are presented. Let's talk about authenticity. How real is what we're actually seeing on reality TV?
Ah, yes. The million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
And the honest answer is, well, it's rarely truly real in that pure fly-on-the-wall documentary sense.
Okay.
There's always a level of production involved, editing, strategic narrative shaping, it all happening.
So producers are crafting stories.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
We often talk about constructed reality. Think about shows like Towie or Made in Chelsea.
Right, those feel quite structured.
Exactly. And even elements within shows like Love Island are carefully crafted to create drama, to follow certain storylines the producers want to highlight.
So basically, we're watching a version of reality that's being performed for us.
Precisely. It's a good way to put it. Reality performed.
Do viewers know that, do you think?
I think viewers are often aware of it, yes, to some extent. They know it's entertainment. But the constant exposure over time, it can blur the lines, between the performed persona and the actual person underneath.
Okay, let's shift to the impact on people then. Both the participants, the people on screen, and those of us watching at home. What are the psychological, maybe social effects we should be aware of?
Yeah, this is a really important area. For participants, there's definitely a potential mental health toll. It can be significant.
How so?
Well, think about it. Sudden fame, intense public scrutiny, often facing a barrage of online abuse. It can be incredibly challenging to navigate.
Yeah.
And sadly, as we know, there have been tragic cases, individuals connected to these shows who have taken their own lives.
The case of Caroline Flack, for instance, was just such a stark reminder of those pressures.
Absolutely. A
Yeah.
terrible reminder. And then for viewers,
Mm-hmm.
well, constant exposure to these often highly competitive, visually perfect environments,
Yeah.
it can contribute to issues like body dissatisfaction, maybe the normalization of certain behaviors that aren't always, let's say, positive,
Hmm.
like intense arguments or manipulation,
And the binge watching aspect?
that too. It can fuel a kind of hyper-consumerism, perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
always wanting the next thing, the lifestyle shown.
But surely it's not all negative. I mean, people talk about the social connection that comes with watching these shows, too, don't they?
Or absolutely, that's a really important counterpoint. There's definitely a community aspect.
Right, the water cooler chat, but online now.
Exactly. The shared experience of watching. It leads to online discussions, group chats, memes. It creates a kind of shared cultural language.
Yeah, I get that. So when we think about all these effects, the good and the bad, who ultimately carries the responsibility? Where does the buck stop?
It's, well, it's a multi-layered issue. There isn't one single answer.
Okay.
Broadcasters and production companies certainly have a significant responsibility. Of course they do. Then regulatory bodies like Ofcom, they play a role in setting standards. And in a way, the audience does too. In terms of what we choose to watch and how we engage with it, the kind of conversations we have around it.
Have things improved? Are there better protections now?
We have seen some positive changes, yes. Things like more emphasis on psychological screening before people go on shows and better aftercare programs for participants once they leave. But it's an ongoing process, an evolution.
So, bottom line, do you think reality TV needs stricter rules? More regulation?
Stricter rules. I think the focus perhaps should be less on outright censorship, because that's a tricky path,
Okay.
and more on, say, transparency and clear ethical standards.
Transparency, like...
Like clear distinctions for the audience between what's presented as completely real and what's heavily constructed or edited. And also robust ethical guidelines for casting, for informed consent, and for how individuals are portrayed.
Right, that makes sense. Now, there's often this argument you hear that reality TV isn't creating these issues, it's simply holding up a mirror to society, reflecting back what's already there. Is there truth in that?
There's definitely an element of truth to that, yes. It absolutely can magnify certain cultural values or anxieties that are already present in society.
Such as?
Oh, things around beauty standards, certainly. Class dynamics often play out. Relationship ideals, our obsession with fame. It reflects and amplifies all of that.
So it's like a magnifying glass.
In some ways, yes. And, some shows even play with that idea directly. Think about Gogglebox.
Yeah.
That literally flips the script, doesn't it? It reflects the audience back to themselves watching TV. It's quite meta and fascinating.
So it's not all just, vapid drama and toxicity then?
Oh, not at all. That's a common perception, but the genre is incredibly broad.
Right.
You have shows like The Great British Bake Off, for instance, or Race Across the World.
Yeah, those feel very different.
Exactly. They really highlight qualities like kindness, resilience, teamwork. They celebrate diversity in a really positive way. The landscape is much more varied than maybe the most talked about, sensationalized shows might suggest.
So, looking ahead then, where do you see reality TV going? What does the future hold for it here in the UK?
Interesting question. I think we'll probably see more interactive formats develop,
Interactive how?
where viewers have perhaps a greater, more immediate say in shaping the storylines.
Mm-hmm.
Through real-time voting, social media integration, that sort of thing.
Okay, more audience control.
Potentially. And I think there's also likely to be a continued push, hopefully, for greater diversity and authenticity in casting.
Meaning?
meaning representing a genuinely wider range of people, different ethnic backgrounds, economic situations, neurodiverse individuals, a truer reflection of the UK population.
Do you think people's interest in it might eventually just fade away? Will we get bored of it?
I don't think it will disappear entirely. I think the way we engage with it is changing, though.
How so?
Audiences are definitely becoming more media literate, I think. More skeptical, maybe more self-aware about what they're watching and why. But I believe reality TV, in some form or another, is here to stay. It will likely just evolve, perhaps into smarter, maybe more thoughtful iterations alongside the pure entertainment formats.
Okay, so to wrap things up then, why is it? Why do you think some people are just completely hooked by reality TV? They love it, while others really truly hate it. They just can't stand it.
Yeah, it's incredibly polarizing, isn't it?
Totally.
Well, for those who love it, I think it offers pure escapism.
Mhm.
Often, it's dramatic, it can be very funny. Sometimes it's even genuinely inspiring or makes you feel a connection.
Okay.
And for those who dislike it,
Yeah.
well, the criticisms often center on it being perceived as, like, exploitative of participants or promoting shallow values and consumerism.
So final question for you then. Having studied it so closely, where do you personally stand on that spectrum? Love it or loathe it?
Slight pause. Honestly, I think it's both. It contains multitudes, as they say. It holds both the potential for connection and community, but also the potential for exploitation and negativity. And that's precisely what makes it such a compelling, such a fascinating area of study. Reality TV, really in all its forms, acts as this kind of cultural Rorschach test for our time.
A cultural Rorschach test. I like
It
that.
reveals a lot about what we value, what we aspire to, and maybe even what we fear as a society.
Dr. Nathan Miller, thank you so much. That was a really thoughtful lens on something that's, well, it's everywhere in our lives. It's definitely given us a lot to think about.
My pleasure entirely. It's always interesting to dive into the real-life drama behind the reality, so to speak.
Absolutely. And to you listening, whether you're a devoted fan glued to the latest series or perhaps a firm detractor of the whole genre, it's really hard to deny the significant mark reality TV has made and continues to make on British culture, for better or perhaps for worse. If you found this deep dive interesting, please do subscribe to Westferry Times. Leave us a review if you can. It really does help other people find us. And maybe even share this chat with your own reality TV watch-along groups.
Good idea.
Until our next deep dive, keep watching, keep questioning what you see, and as always, stay curious. Goodbye.